The marketing machine for the Nintendo Switch 2 is revving up, so it's time to celebrate the original Nintendo Switch. I've got my 10 favorite indie games for you right now. I love this freaking platform. I've had so many wonderful hours playing Nintendo Switch games, but I have to tell you, the thing that really held this console together, there were big exclusives from Nintendo, there were some great ports, and I'll get into those in another video, but what really held the Nintendo Switch together were all of the incredible indie games that this console got all the way along, starting right from its launch in 2017. I'm picking out my 10 favorite indie games for you for this platform, and this was an incredibly difficult task for me. I specifically didn't choose some big indie titles like Streets of Rage 4, which is incredible, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, both based on licensed properties and great partnerships, and I hope that more companies across the industry look at those two games and start to take some big risks. We're going to get that amazing looking Ninja Gaiden game and that Shinobi game, probably for the original Nintendo Switch later this year. Can't wait for both of those games, and I want to see more of that kind of thing happening. But we also saw some big partnerships with publishers like Microsoft investing in the Ori games, Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I didn't include those, or Cuphead, which is also an incredible indie title, but again, it got that big blast of promotion. And I also didn't choose some of the big indie darlings out there, which had massive success across PC platforms and then are available everywhere, like Animal Well, which is beautiful, or Hollow Knight, which is unstoppable and very difficult, and we can't wait for Silk Song. I also didn't choose Dave the Diver, which I also love. Some of that is because I played games like that on the Steam Deck or on the ROG Ally X on different platforms of the Nintendo Switch, but I did pick 10 excellent indie games. We're going to start with number 10, which is The Touryst, which came out in 2019. It's from a company called Shinin Multimedia, which also brought that Fast RX game, which was a launch Wipeout-like for the Nintendo Switch, which is also great. But The Touryst was very special. Voxel graphics, lots of really cool areas to explore, a lot of cool puzzles. You play a tourist coming to an island and you get embroiled in all of the things that are happening on this weird island. You walk up to people and they send you out on missions and objectives, and you discover that there's something mysterious going on this island. But I also love the fact that there's an arcade on the island, and you can walk up to these little voxel arcade machines and start playing these wonderful little cool arcade games. Oh my god, I was so addicted to The Touryst. It's an amazing game. If you've never heard of it, if you've never played it, go check this out right now. It is very cool. Now, number 9 for me is Xeno Crisis. This is from a UK developer called Bitmap Bureau, and what's interesting about this game is that it's been ported to everything. There are Sega Genesis cartridges out there. There's a Super Nintendo cartridge. This is an insanely cool game, and Bitmap Bureau got so much acclaim and attention on this, they're actually working on that Terminator 2D game, which looks freaking fantastic. I can't wait for that title. But why I love Xeno Crisis, it's essentially a Smash TV. I mean, it's really evocative of the Eugene Jarvis classics, a little Robotron, a little Smash TV. It's punishingly difficult, but it's so cool. The pixel art is amazing. It's a top-down 2D twin-stick shooter, and it plays beautifully on the Nintendo Switch. It plays great on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and basically anywhere they ported this wonderful game to. You play Space Marines taking on this alien horde, and you're rescuing people and getting power-ups and stuff, and oh my god, is it addictive. I play this game all the freaking time, and I love it on my Nintendo Switch OLED screen. Number 8 for me is Dead Cells. This came out in 2018, and yes, this is another one of those indie darlings that was played everywhere, but I really devoured it on the Nintendo Switch. It is a Metroidvania roguelike, and so there's a lot of exploration, and the world changes all the time. It's incredibly difficult, and so you're meant to kind of die and sort of progress little bits and pieces, and usually those roguelike kind of mechanics drive me a bit insane, because, you know, I'm a little time pressed to try to check out as much software as possible to put videos and content together for you guys. But I couldn't stop playing Dead Cells. It's absolutely phenomenal. The controls are perfect, and all of the exploration and the combat that you get into is so cool. And I also loved that partnership with Konami that they did around Castlevania as well. This is an incredible game, and I absolutely adore it on the Nintendo Switch. Number 7 on my list is Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer, and I guess I'm cheating with my rules here a little bit because Nintendo partnered with the indie studio called Brace Yourself Games based out of Vancouver, which is awesome. And they made kind of a spin-off game to their phenomenal Crypt of the Necrodancer experience, the core game. And this is a top-down 2D rhythm-based roguelike dungeon crawling experience. And so you have to time your moves to the rhythm and you're picking up all kinds of cool weapons and abilities. But the Cadence of Hyrule game threw in all kinds of Zelda flourishes and Zelda music, which is funkified. So you're kind of grooving to the beat of all of these classic Zelda tunes as you're playing this phenomenal game. There's a tremendous amount of depth and replayability, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's so freaking special. I love both of these Crypt of the Necrodancer experiences, and they are perfect on your Nintendo Switch. Number 6 on my list is The Messenger, and this is from Sabotage out in Quebec City, and man, they blew me away with this game. It's definitely evocative of a lot of other action platformers out there, some Metroidvania kind of elements for sure, where you're shooting across onto platforms and you're hacking and slashing your way and utilizing the mechanics and the mobility of the character that you play. It's so freaking cool. But the big kind of twist here is that the visuals actually transform midway through the experience from 8-bit to 16-bit style graphics, and it's so wonderfully done. I was absolutely riveted by how fun this freaking game was, how cool it was, and how hypnotic this visual transformation was. I mean, there are a lot of excellent 2D games for the Nintendo Switch, but this is one of the highlights. The Messenger rules, and that leads into my number 5, which is Sea of Stars, also from Sabotage, and part of the Messenger universe, or I don't know if the Messenger is part of Sea of Stars universe, but they share some similar backstory. This is a top-down, old-school 16-bit style role-playing experience with phenomenal characters and lots of cool boss encounters, and it is just a beautiful treat with gorgeous, sumptuous visuals and exquisite music. You can tell that these guys work their butt off to kind of honor the games that influenced them to become game makers, and they built a modern classic. Sea of Stars is phenomenal, and holy crap does it look incredible on my Nintendo Switch OLED screen when I play this portably, or on the big screen too. This is just a gorgeous, wonderful, and satisfying role-playing experience. You gotta check out Sea of Stars. Number 4 for me is SteamWorld Dig 2 from Image and Form, and this was released in the Switch's launch year when all of these indie experiences were really exploding on the platform, and this one really stood out for me. I did go back and check out SteamWorld Dig 1, and I enjoyed that, but Dig 2 really elevated the whole experience. The visuals are better, the mechanics are tighter, the characters that you meet are more interesting, and it was just a wonderful game that uses that old dig dug mechanic of being able to dig into the environments, and you're finding all kinds of gems and jewels, and you're playing this robot who's digging into not only the core of the world and getting deeper and deeper into the story and finding all kinds of great power-ups and things, but there's also this wider mystery that you're uncovering as you go as well. This was addictive and gorgeous, and also a great underline of how important indie games were going to be for this platform. Number 3 on my list is Celeste. This one came out in 2018, and it was also made in Vancouver, which is pretty darn cool, made by a small company called Maddie Makes Games. It's a super precise pixel art platformer, and it is absolutely beautiful, but what's more hypnotic than the visuals is the play of it, the precision that it takes to make every jump and avoid all the obstacles, and the multiple deaths that you're going to have as you're playing in the game. But the game really teaches you to have some forgiveness and to learn how to play it. I mean, it really sort of says, look, just take it easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. And that's kind of the through line of the plot as well. It's gorgeous. It was one of the best games of that year, 2018. It's one of the best games for the Nintendo Switch, and that's why it's so high up on my list. Number 2 on my list is another one from Devolver Digital, and it's from a developer called Free Lives based out of South Africa. And also, this is a cheat. Again, this was an indie darling before it came to the Switch, but holy crap, is it a perfect game for the Switch. I'm talking about Broforce. You play as a bunch of different characters which are tributes to action stars of the 80s and 90s. So you might see Blade or Neo from The Matrix or Indiana Jones or Rambo, and they all have bro titles, and it's just crazy and over the top, and you're running and gunning and blasting the environments, and you'll pick up all kinds of explosive devices which will shatter everything and maybe doom yourself but again, so addictive. It has kind of that Contra vibe. I was also thinking a little bit of Bionic Commando as I was playing this, but the comedy and the zany over-the-top situations that you get into, so freaking fun. Also evokes a lot of Metal Slug as well. This is a wonderful game. I want Devolver to let us know if there's going to be a Broforce 2. I love this game. You gotta play Broforce. You are not going to forget it. And number 1 on my list is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which was a launch experience for Nintendo Switch. And yes, also an indie darling. Sorry, I kind of cheated again here, but this game was just sensational. What an absolutely exhilarating experience to play on our launch machines when we weren't playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. And what this game did is collect all of the other campaigns that Yacht Club Games, the developer, had reached out to its community to get kickstarted. So all of those campaigns, so that included the base game of Shovel of Hope, and then you got Plague of Shadows and Spectre of Torment and King of Cards, so you were introduced to all of these cool new bosses and enemy types, and man, what an addictive experience. The game is absolutely a love letter to games like Mega Man and lots of cool 2D experiences, but they also have in this collection Shovel Knight Showdown, which is a bit of a fighting game with all of these wonderful characters that Yacht Club had been able to build on. And there's also amiibo support for this game, so you can have some co-op gameplay as well. It's so robust, it's so beautiful. I love this freaking franchise. Yacht Club really struck gold with Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight Dig, which you could play on a bunch of different platforms, including Apple Arcade, which was crazy. I love Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. Very clever, very cool. This is the genesis. This is the start of it all. Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, an absolute classic, and also a shot out of the launch cannon for Nintendo Switch to kind of say, indies are essential on this incredible console, and that has remained true all the way along. And I think I talked about 20 or so different indie games in what was supposed to be my top 10 list for this platform, but that sort of is an indication of how many great choices there are. And man, are we grateful to all of you indie game developers out there that keep this console humming. So many great experiences. I can't wait to see what that means for Nintendo Switch 2. I can't wait to see what the indie titles are going to be on that platform and what's going to be enhanced or improved or sequelized from this core library of excellent indie experiences for Nintendo Switch 1. And honestly, I've just been so grateful for Nintendo Switch to kind of open the floodgates and let us see so many alternative choices out there. It's almost kind of a blessing in disguise that the Nintendo Switch wasn't overloaded with AAA ports, you know? But I am going to talk about that, AAA ports on Nintendo Switch, in an upcoming video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out my top 10 overall games for the Nintendo Switch. We will see you soon, and until then, play forever.